When it comes to dealing with deceivers, there are certain ways to tell if someone has been lying, either by certain tells or by the way to question if someone is trying to deceive. But what are the first signs? What kind of things do you need to look for to see if someone is lying? What does the Pinocchio effect really mean? Grab your polygraph, sit back, relax, and let's get started. When it comes to this subject, it needs to be told exactly what deception is. It's more than simply telling a lie, because that's just one part of deception. Lying is simply telling something that isn't factual or true. It's an easy thing for many people, but deception is something far larger. Deception is trying to pass off something that is not true or factual as if it was. It also helps to think of it as a possible delusion or something you convince yourself is true. By that definition, would you believe there's one kind of deception that is routinely played every day and that there are many people who get involved? As a writer, I'm very familiar with this aspect of deception, the kind that takes the least amount of effort, truth be told. It's like when you go to the movies, and some of them are listed as true, there's always a bit of incredulous disbelief in them. There's actually a performer of these kinds of things, a magician, that labeled magic, and by extension all forms of entertainment, as the willing suspension of disbelief. Let me try to explain this better. I'm sure you've all seen the old sawing a woman in half illusion. Basically, a magician puts a lady in a box, apparently securing her feet and her neck before running a saw through the box and presumably through her. He slides it in dividers and then pushes the box apart. Yet she still smiles and acts like it's okay as the magician puts her back together. But is that really what goes on? Can a person be cut apart and then reassembled that quickly? No, of course they can't. In fact, if you were to really try it without knowing the trick, it's very likely you could seriously injure and even kill the person in the box. Yet they still do this, and that's what makes it what they call an illusion. And in magic, that's just one way of making it look like the impossible is happening. Yet, in the side performance of magic, they never just leave you hanging, leave it undone, unless it's part of the act. There are some of these performers that prefer what they call shock illusions, or more extreme forms of the same, but there is one part of the act I like to call the dark side of magic. I'll get to that in a little bit, after I get some more down. In my writing, I tell the story of people in another galaxy and their wars against powerful foes. Yet I don't try and convince people that the characters in Firesword are real, and that the telling is an actual account. I invented the outbox zone and the technology in my head in order to try and make it more plausible and to give the story a full experience. Yet, in the strictest definition, it is a form of deception because there are things being presented that are not based on any truth, just my imagination. But the dark side of magic is something else entirely. Perhaps the most well-known name in performance magic is that of Mr. Harry Houdini. He would do feats that were thought impossible, escaping from handcuffs and even straitjackets while suspended in midair upside down. He'd escape from old-style milk cans and even a large container of water that was thought to be completely secure. But there is one part that isn't told very often. After his mother died, he went to a psychic. It was after this short visit he was completely convinced that psychics were frauds. He dedicated the majority of his life after that to exposing and explaining not only psychics but many other kind of spiritualism practices. I could, if I wanted, explain away the majority of what they apparently do. Now, I'm not saying all of them are frauds, but many of them I believe actually are. simply by using the right kind of ambience, setting the mood, so to speak, and using techniques that are so generalized they might as well be talking to anyone, narrowing it down until they have someone believing it's crap and convincing them that they're talking about some obscure connection to someone in their life, either past or present. The act is sold. One of the best known and perhaps most controversial so-called psychic is a woman by the name of Sylvia Browne. I have read a couple of her books I wish I could unread, that were full of the most mundane and most generalized approximations that I had to declare her a complete fraud. But there is one name that gets brought up with these kind of things that people still apparently put a great deal of faith in. Certainly one of the best known names when it comes to so-called seers is Michel de Nostradamus, or Nostradamus as he's better known today. He supposedly wrote prophecies that are to come, but are linked only by consideration and by the flimsiest of lines. The connection many people make to Napoleon and Hitler are indeed almost certainly obscure. The one thing that many point out is that he nearly spelled the name of Hitler in the one that's supposed to be about the infamous Führer, yet there's something none of them want to realize. These so-called prophecies aren't direct. Many of those who say they're come to pass are ignorant of the fact that those that apparently did get fulfilled are only seen after the fact. Then there's another little issue that nobody wants to pay attention to anymore. The fact that Nostradamus did predict the end of the world in April of 1999. They want to excuse it and explain he meant to have it later, but it doesn't say anything about that. I like the idea of Occam's razor, that the simplest explanation is usually the right one. So which is more reasonable? That a medieval physician wanted to try and help humanity reach the epic of what they are capable of, or that the same man somehow was able to see into the future and tell us things that would only be understood after the fact, but not leaving things any clearer than before, and not saying what we could do to avoid them. Now for one of the most irritating so-called psychic positions, public displays around today. Originally created as a running gag at the annals of sitcoms, where steady families were, at the time, the norm, The Simpsons was aired a very long time ago. There are easily over 1,000 episodes and easily over 10,000 possible threads that run through them, but there's a trend that I kind of find annoying when other YouTube channels try to show how this program predicts the future. I've heard many of these other channels tell of the similarity between episodes aired a long time ago and things that happen today. Such things as the Lady Gaga performance at the Super Bowl, or even the London Shard are brought up that they were told were predicted by The Simpsons, but they forgot something very important. With the time the show has been running, it's likely that those that designed the Shard and even Lady Gaga were inspired by the episodes in question, and they did the deals they did based on The Simpsons instead of the other way around. Now, I'm technically not breaking any rules here, although it may seem political. I'm only using it as a reference. One episode seemed to have predicted the presidency of Donald Trump. I have heard many of the vids on The Simpsons bring this up, and also the fact that after America was broke, but the context isn't there. If the episode had been aired for the first time in 2014 or 2015, it would likely have been more than it really is. But at the time the episode aired, Donald Trump was thought of as a joke, or a celebrity that didn't really deserve the spot. He got his name first in the late 1980s as a person who made it big in the real estate and business game. Then a few tries at businesses later that seemed to fall apart. It seemed he was destined to fade into obscurity until the ones who thought of The Apprentice showed up and sold him on the idea. So the cartoon show thought it might be funny to show Trump as a figure that would bankrupt America if he is elected president. But that was just one thread in a million that isn't likely to have happened. Nobody can predict what any person might do, not ever, and nobody should try. It's up to each person using their beliefs and their traditions to make their life as good or as bad as possible. If you believe you can get guidance, it's not hard to find it, but that's for another time. So that's it. This video is carefully researched in order to try and show how I feel about the subject. There are quite a few things that might come up during the course of this series. If you want, you can look up the subject yourself. I'd only ask for a like and a comment, and for you to hit the circle with the bar in it to subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.